guys today will contain greeting. Right? Back in towns, every separate man, woman, and children were put in jail for a month. It was terrible. At the end of the month, we are allowed to go back to our homes. They wouldn't try that again, the king must have thought. Was he right? More secretly than ever, we again made plans to live for Holland. Everyone was excited. This time we found a captain from Holland who made a small ship of his own. He said he could trust him to keep our secret. One by one, we sold our home and our belongings. On the center days, all the women took the children for a boat ride. Our boat was to meet in the Dutch ship. The night men would walk down the shore and meet the ship. While waiting for the ship to come, my mother and other women got seasick. Our boat was rolled into a gentle creek. When the wave where the wave would not bother us, but the creek was not so deep. Soon the white tide went out, leaving our boat stuck in the mud. When the tide came out, our boat got stuck. It would stay stuck until the tide came in. The dock captain saw that what had happened since the separate men were already. He took all of them on board first. Just as the men boarded the ship, the captain saw English soldiers marching over the hill. He knew that there was no time to rescue the women. Everyone was caught if he did. He was also afraid that English soldier would take his boat away. Frightened, he pulled out his ship anchor and sailed away with other separate men. But the man would have done anything. The man would have done anything to help us. The woman cried for the husband. And the other children, and I cried for our father, but it is too late. Those soldiers must have felt silly marching down the street with women and children as prisoners. They took us to the judge, but the judge did not know what to do. Go back to your home, the judge ordered. But, cried my mother and other women, we have no home. We sold them. The women wept for their husband. We children cried for our father, and the judge shook their head. Maybe they felt like crying too. What a sight it was. Finally, the judge said, send them to Holland to be with their husband and father. What a happy day it was when my mother and others separate wife and children stepped off the boat in Holland. We can be sure that there was happy husband and father there to greet us. In Holland, we could worship God freely, but we were not as happy as we hoped. My father and other men wanted to be a farmer as they had been in England, but they had no money to buy farms. They had to work in factory instead. Soon we found that Holland was very different from England. The Dutch language and the way life were not what we were used to. As time went by, my friends and we forgotten England. We want to speak Dutch instead of English. How sad this made our parents. We must do something, they thought. Some of the separate asked why not go to America. We heard about the people already living in America called Indian. We trust that if we are peaceful and friendly, they would live peaceful with us. Soon our farmers decide to go. Pilgrims. After many prayers and much hard work, a small group of shepherds sailed back to England. There they met other people who wanted to sail to America. Since the shepherds did not know these people, they called them strangers. The strangers want to go to America for a different reason than the shepherds. They hope to find New York and an adventure there. Remember the separate reason for travel to America. They wanted freedom to worship God because all were traveling together to a strange new land. They were called pilgrims. Sailing for America the day we finally away on September 6, 1620. A ship called the Mayflower set sail for America. On board were 102 passengers. There were also 20 sailors on board. They laughed at the shepherds, making fun of their prayers. Do you think this made the shepherds ashamed to pray? No, indeed. They kept praying. Fun of their prayer? Do you think that? No, indeed. They kept praying, asked God for God help. The captain of the Mayflower was the Master Johns. He was an excellent captain. Unlike his sailor, he was very kind to the shepherds, like aboard the Mayflower. For 65 days, the Mayflower sailed to the Atlantic Ocean. The water the Pilgrim had stored in barrels. This water quickly became salt. There was no water for bath or washing clothes, but some of the boys did not seem to mind. There was no vegetable food or fresh meat to eat after the dry food that had bought them was gone. They ate crackers and stale bread, yet they continued to thank God for His goodness. He was sending them to a country where they could be free to worship Him. Can you imagine how the ocean became wave-tossed their small ship? Many of the pilgrims became seasick. All the Mayflower passengers and belongings were crammed together. Some of them even had to sleep inside a small boat that the Mayflower carried to use in America. Land ho on the morning of November 160-20. How happy and thankful the pilgrims were to hear the crying. Land ho! Even though they were eager to get on land, they remained to thank God first. It took many weeks to find a safe place to build their homes. They had to be near fish, drink water, as well as harbor for ships. There's no one the Greek, the pilgrims in America too. They had no stores to food food and supplies. They had to do everything for themselves, but they trust God to take care of them. It's easy to see the Pilgrims were brave people. They had faced danger and hard time to getting to America, and how they faced hard time again. The first winter, over half one died from hunger and sickness. They could have grumbled and complained. Instead, they praised God and asked Him for His help. God was good to them. In the spring, the Pilgrims did become friends with Native America. With their help, the Pilgrims planted seed. In the fall, the Pilgrims harvested so much food that they had a Thanksgiving feast. God gave the Pilgrim courage to trust His plans for them, when then used their story to bring again the story of America. Psalm 107 is a Bible passage written about the Hebrew children. It tells the story of how God led out the Egyptians and helped them in other times of need. Can you find some parts of the story that remind you of Pilgrim's story? Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for He is good, for His mercy and the need forever. Lest the remind the Lord say so, whom He hath removed from the hand of the enemy, and gathered them out of the land, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. They wandered in the wilderness in a solid way. They found no city to dwell in. Hunger and thirsty is still facing them when they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and He divided them out for their distress, and He led them forth by the right way, that they might go to a city, a habit of that man would praise the Lord for His goodness and for His wonderful works to the children of man. Psalm 1007:18. Something to see. If you visit Palm Harbor in Massachusetts, you can see the Pill Rock. It marks the place believed to be where the Pilgrims landed. The date 1620 stands for the year the Mayflower brought the Pilgrims to America. Think about it. In what ways do you think the Pilgrims were brave? The lasting friendship. Do you mind the Pilgrims' first winter in America? It was a very, very hard winter. The next winter was much better, thanks to their Native American friends. This friendship helped them survive and be successful in America. The first spring, the Pilgrim made a lasting friendship with a Native American named Squanto. The Pilgrims were surprised to find that he spoke English. Squanto chose to live with the Pilgrims, become his tribe, and all died in a great sickness. Through Squanto's help, most of the neighbor tribes made peace with the Pilgrims. Some tribes proved to be a great friends. The Pilgrims had never seen corn before. They did not know how to plant or eat it. The Native American calls corn by a different name, maize. Squanto told the Pilgrims that when the oak tree's leaves were so big as a mouse ear, it was time to plant the corn. What reason of the year would that be? Squanto and his friend were good farmers. Penitently, Squanto taught the Pilgrims to dig a small hole in the soil. Have the Pilgrims, boys and girls, I pop when Squanto dropped a small fish into a hole with a seed, and a dead fish with seeds. The fish was used to family or adding nutrients to the soil. Sometimes Squanto would drop a pumpkin seed, bean, or squash seed into the hole. Some pumpkin and squash were new to the Pilgrims too. After their crops grew, the Native Americans taught the Pilgrims many ways to prepare food. These are the ways they taught the Pilgrims to prepare corn. Cornbread, roasted ears, honey, cornmeal. What is your favorite ways to eat corns? Now this was the way the Native America taught the Pilgrims to do with corns. What thing did you like the most? I like cornbread the most because I have eaten cornbread and it was delicious. What is your favorite? Maybe cornbread like me, or maybe cornmeal? Ways the Native America helped the Pilgrims. There was plenty of fish in the stream, but the Pilgrims had no nets or hooks to catch them. The Native Americans showed them how to weave nets out of the tall, dry grass that grew long in the banker. Deer in the forest. There are deer in the forest, but the Pilgrims were able to shoot many of them. The deer were not able to shoot many of them. The deer always ran away. The Native Americans showed the Pilgrims how to sneak up on the deer. The Pilgrims had to pay for the trip across the Atlantic aboard the Mayflower. They sent many boatloads of animal skins and fur back to England. How did Pilgrims get the skins and furs? The Native Americans traced many furs for knives and breads. Without help from the Native Americans, the Pilgrims might never have to have a Thanksgiving feast. They had corn, squash, and pumpkins stored away for their second winter. They also knew how to catch fish and hunt woodland animals so they could eat meat through the winters. The Pilgrims had homes to stay in because of their Native Americans' land. Their second year in America was much more pleasant than the first. Thanksgiving Day. Almost every country in the world celebrates special holidays such as Christmas and Easter, but there was some special days that only Americans celebrate. We call them Pascal Day holidays or American holidays. These days celebrate the birthday of famous Americans and special day America passed. Thanksgiving Day is one of our special days. The Pilgrims had their first Thanksgiving feast in 1621. They had much to be thankful for. Can you think of some things America can be thankful for today? Thanksgiving might be your favorite holiday. Maybe it's a special time of the year you travel to see your grandparents or other family members. You probably enjoy good food. Do you know America did not always celebrate Thanksgivings the way it does? After 1621, there were special days of Thanksgiving for many different things. Whenever anything happened that America wanted to praise for the Lord for, they would have a special day of thanksgiving and prayers. In 1698, Maryland had a day of thanksgiving because a terrible sickness that had come upon many people had ended. In 1798, President George Washington proclaimed a day of thanksgiving for a new and free country. Later, President Lincoln proclaimed the first Thursday in November as a day of Thanksgiving for our country. That has been our Thanksgiving Day ever since. Now I'll read you chapter 3. Come colony America. Many years had passed since the Pilgrims' first Thanksgivings. More and more people had come from England to live in America. They spread out along the Atlantic coast, living in 13 colonies. As a colony is the land that is ruled by another country. Can you guess who rules the American colonies? England rules the 13 American colonies. That at that time, the colonies was the beginning of what would become the United States of America. Colony life. What kind of house did people live during colony days? That would depend on where they live. Most of the houses in New England were clapboard houses. Many cousins in Pennsylvania or New York built log house. In a cousin lived in America might have lived in a stone house. Oh my gosh. In the southern colonies, some people live in plantains' homes. Mansion. Very few colonies had glass windows in their house. Glass was very expensive. Instead, they put animal skin or olive over windows open. The olive made it easier for the sunshine to shine through the paper. Food in the colonies ate. The colony women did not have many pots or pans. They cooked meat and vegetable together in the same kettle over a big fireplace. Colonists probably had some kind of stew almost every day. Since there was no freezer or canned food, colonies had other ways to store food for the winter. Food like corns and beans and apples could be dried and eaten later. Cornbread and milk could be prepared with the supper they had. Only supplies like sugar, flour, salt, peas, and tea were bought from a store. Sometimes the men would hunt for food. Colony shops. The colony towns, there were many craft shops where craftsmen worked. Everything was made by hands in this shop. A large town would have many shops. What kind of shops will you see in Colony Town? The silversmith. The first shop we see is the silversmith. A silversmith shop might remind you of a jewelry store. Do you see other shiny things to buy? A silversmith or repairs things using available silver such as buckle, can holder, earrings, and spoons. Sometimes the silversmith would also be the town watchmaker. The blacksmith. Down the street we heard the clang, clang, clang of a hammer against iron. A blacksmith is a hardware here. He makes nails, ties, farm tools, and horseshoes by hand. First, he solves the black metal iron in a very hot fire. Then, with a heavy hammer, the blacksmith pounds the iron into the shape of what he wants to make. The blacksmith shop was also a place to go if you need a dentist in a colony day. At that time, there was only one cure for the toothache: get rid of the tooth. A blacksmith could use his iron pen to pull out the ancient tooth. The genre. Next, we pass the genre or cabinet maker shop. He make beautiful desks desks, chairs, tables, and other furniture by hand. Some colonists made their own furniture from rough wood. Many families who live in a near town usually like to build beautiful furniture from a skilled carpet maker, the cooper. Our next stop is the cooper shop. We can hear a light tap, tap, tap as we go inside. The cooper makers mend shoes in the colony days. Cooper did not worry about making one shoe for the left foot and the other for the right foot. Instead, they made two shoes exactly alike. A left or a right foot would fit entirely on neither one of them. Do you wish your shoes were like that? Other shops. There was other shop to see in Conley Town. An apparel shop saw a mixture of spice and herb for medicine. Today, people would call this kind of store apartments. Will you buy berries from Cooper's? Berries were good for storing foods, such as fish and muslins. As in Whitesmith shop, you could buy things made from thin, moist Conley handle. Lanterns, cups, and diapers were made of tin. Buying and selling. As you can see, Conley stores were very different from the store we have now. Today, we cannot see the image being made from you do shopping. Instead, its images were mostly made in factories, so stores can buy them to sell. Sometimes some things else were made in Conley shops. Not all of the Conleys had money. If they want to buy something, they could barter or trade for it. A Conley could bring vegetable trade with a blacksmith if he needs a horseshoes prepared. The silversmith needed a new table. He could trade candlestick for a table from the joiner. Conley schools. If a town was large enough, there was a school for children to attend. Some towns were still growing. They did not have a school yet. Some learning was very important to the Conley family. Many Conley children taught to read at home. Most Conley were farmers. They do not have medicine that farmers have today. When a job had to be done on the farm, the children helped. They did most of their learning during season when there was less farm work to be done. Remember, there was no cars and bus during the Conley's days. How did children get to school? He walks. Many times Conley children walked 3 or 4 miles to a schoolhouse. Learning was so important to a Conley's families that there was 6 school days each week. Even Saturday was a school day. In most Conley schoolhouses, a man called the schoolmaster was a teacher. For a long time, the schoolhouse had only one room. No matter how old they are, all the children were taught in the same room. In some schools, the children sat on the bench instead of a desk. There was a few blackboards and maps. If they did not have paper, students wrote on pieces apart from birch trees. During winter, a fireplace warmed the schoolhouse. Every children took turns bringing fireworks from home to school. The first book a Conley children learns to read was not really a book at all. It's called a horn book. A thin sheet of paper with a reading lesson written on it was placed on the piece of wood. Over this was placed a thin sheet of animal's horn, which you could see through. Small children would hold their horn books and learn their ABC. The most widely used school books in all Americas was the New England Pilgrim. This book taught each letter of the alphabet with a rhyme. Many of these rhymes were about the Bible, saying it began A in Adam fall, he sins all, and end with Z. Zacchaeus he did climb a tree, his Lord received. Okay, now we'll read chapter 4 of Freedom of America. There was a boy named Washington. Harrison, who grew up in the colonies as a boy. Washington loved outdoors. As he grew older, he learned how to measure and make maps of land. Meanwhile, he was trouble of English colony. France also had colonies in North America. The French said they owned the same land that English was there. The English said the French began, and the French began to fight over this land. The French talks about Native America into helping them, hoping that together they would be able to defeat the English. This was called the French and the Indian War. By the time French and Indian War had started, George Washington had grown up. He became a soldier and was known for his bravery. With the help of his colony, like George Washington, England won the French and Indian War. Colony's life, however, he was becoming more difficult. For many years, the colonies had been ruled by England, but the king of England had made laws that were not fair to the colonies. The colony decided to discard the freedom from England. On July 4, 1776, some important men from each colony met on Philippines, Tasmania. They wrote a letter to the king of land to declare at him that American colonies were free. In coming weeks, each of men designed his name in his letter. It was called the Declaration of Independence. These traveling very slowly in the colony days, message jumps on their house to spread the news of the Declaration of Independence to each of the 13 colonies. The people of the American colonies were filled with joy. Church bells rings, canoes boomed, torches were lighted. People prayed down the street as drum beats. Okay, bye. This is the end of the video. Bye.